If I could credit my success to one thing, I would say it would be as simple as making my own bed. What do I mean by this, and why is this important? Back when I was little, I got to a certain age, I think it was like maybe 9 or 10, where my mum was like, you should make your own bed. And at first, I did relent, because I kind of thought, well, I was a bit like privileged in a sense, and I should have thought, well, I should be doing this now. And more so, I was like, will I ever be able to do it as well? But I like to think that's what got me started building discipline. So I want to say that there's two types of people. Now, if you're watching this, I wanted to put this towards the start, that thinks making a bed's useless, making a bed doesn't really equate to anything, because I still have to get into it at the end of the day, and it's just going to be a mess. Well, you're somewhat right. Now, there's a type of person that I would say won't really benefit from making their bed. I'm going to be honest on this, but I want to outline the type of person that you would need to be in order to fall into that category. And I'd say for everyone else, myself included, you will find tremendous benefit in making your own bed. For the first type of person that won't benefit, I want to talk about one of my friends. His name's Brandon Vu. He's a successful yo-yoer, YouTuber, content creator. He's always kind of had a bit of a rebellious attitude towards a number of social norms and things incumbent upon him. So the idea of him making his bed, he did try, and he didn't really get a whole lot of additional benefit from it in terms of how I remember it. And the reason this was the case is explored in another video of his where he did his first Ironman. And he's the type of person that when people say in doing an Ironman, you have to train a tremendous amount, he figured out he's of the personality type where that would not align to him. Like, that's not his motivation. So in doing so, he actually figured out that to him it was more motivating to prove to others how little training he can do in order to complete an Ironman. So that's kind of what fueled him, that sense of what I don't need to say what others are doing in order to achieve a goal. I'm going to achieve it in my own way. And I think he's been very, very good at transmitting that to other aspects of his life, like his social media creation, his business, his yo-yo company has created, and all these other facets that kind of really build his brand around his not rebellious, but like somewhat follow his own path and carve out his own steps. So that's kind of where I think he's kind of the exception in that sense, or if you kind of fall into that category where you're not really following any type of rules, but you've got a quite unique way of looking at things and you're motivated by other things, then you probably wouldn't find benefit. But those of you like me that like structure, like rules, like that feeling of accomplishment, like playing video games, like seeing the benefit of, completing a mission, making a bed is going to set you on that journey of the real life things you can actually achieve. And it's the first thing that you can set in your day to frame it correctly. But what I mean by making your bed, it actually translates into other aspects of how making the bed is more than just making the bed. Now, what I mean by that is there's levels to it. So you can make a bed, right? But then there'll come a point when you'll realize you really need to change the sheets of the bed. Now, I've noticed with a lot of men, they don't seem to really understand this premise, and they'll have something laundered for them. So changing the sheets doesn't really appear to be a priority for them. which is kind of a bit sad, but if you kind of try what I'm suggesting, you'll see the benefit. I prescribe changing your sheets once a week. Some people talk about every fortnight. I think it's more important once a week to change your sheets. What that will do is it'll get you into the routine of completely looking after your bed, your sheets. You'll start to get a sense of the quality of your bedding, and you might want to upgrade your bedding from just say a polyester to maybe a pure cotton to an organic cotton, or maybe if you're like me and you sleep really hot, you'll want to upgrade to 100% linen bedding, which will kind of really help you to relax and get that extra level of benefit restorative sleep. But along that side onto it's more than just making your bed, you've got pillowcases, right? So if in making your bed, before you put your pillowcases away, you actually iron them so they're super crisp, then when you put your head on those freshly made pillowcases, because they've been neatly ironed and folded, you'll get this sense of I'm in a 5-star hotel. And that's the same point for when you actually change over your bed linen once a week to sleep in that fresh bedding. You'll be like, wow, this is actually a luxury in terms of having fresh sheets. It's every time I have these fresh sheets, it just continues to surprise me by how comfortable and the amazing feeling of being fresh. People have talked about if you could have your bed laundered every day and you've got fresh sheets every day, then that would just further compound that luxury. But I still think once a week, that's why I'm prescribing once a week, not twice a week, to kind of have that reset. So that's kind of why it's really important in that. And I guess to kind of go back to my brand ethos and what I'm always talking about, Conquer Mountains, Conquer Life, there's a number of things you can't control in your day. Things will get thrown at you, opportunities will arise. When you're doing your workouts, things might go astray, you might get injured. There's a multitude of things in your day that can happen that would just really suck, right? But there's one thing that you actually can control, and that's making your bed. And what that translates to is at the end of the day, no matter how unexpected, how much of a pain, how much you just want to give up, you've got a bed that you made for yourself that you can open up and it's ready to invite you to a nice, relaxing sleep. It's kind of like for your future self. And I think that's the importance of why it's so good to make your bed. Often people talk about researching and studies about how making your bed sets you up to, conquer many, many goals in the day. And that's true. But on the end of that day, even if you've had a really bad day, it just kind of helps to make it seem like it's okay and that you can get up and try again tomorrow. And that's why it's important, in my mind, to make your own bed. And then also the idea of course, bed linen, ironing your pillowcases, just takes you to that next level. And it's free. The idea of changing and making your bed just requires a bit of, washing machine liquid. But that's effectively what has set me up to build discipline, to conquer mountains and conquer life. So, thank you.